Hello, Grey Ribbons! How's it going? This is your last section of work on water availability, and then we'll do water quality. As per your request, we will be doing shorter videos for water quality, but I will try and cram in maybe only the important stuff, even though there is quite a bit. I think I shaved off out of the leftover 60 slides. I'm now sitting at 48. And then I'll cut even more and then try and split that into 3 videos so that we don't have to go any further before exams and we can do some revision. All right, so let's get to it. Let's do wastage. All right, so also this video is going to be really quick. There's nothing crazy, so if you are a bit behind, Tristan, then you can catch up. All right, so wastage of water through poor farming practices has already been discussed. So what it is I've brought up 2 ideas over here, and then you need to tell me how you would potentially sort of come around from these. So if we have poor farming practices, you know that deals specifically with irrigation and how we farm as well, especially on hills. So if we do contoured hills, as well as make sure that the irrigation, our type of irrigation is either under the ground or very close to the ground, that would help stop waste water, and then also do it at very specific times. Water wastage also occurs from leaking taps. Leaking taps in Cape Town, remember they went through that huge drought. They actually just fixed all their leaking taps, and their water loss or water what do we call it? The restrictions actually dropped because people weren't wasting nearly as much water. So leaking taps are one of the main problems of actually water wastage across the entire world. And if you just go around your house, you could probably point out 1, maybe even 2 taps that are, maybe not 100%. And if you get those fixed, the amount of water that you will be saving, because remember that like 1 drip, the mathematics around it is, I can't remember what it is, but I mean, in a day, a dripping tap can almost waste like a couple of liters of water. So it helps to go and fix a leaking tap, leaking toilets, and household supply pipeline. So like if there's a leak in the pipes as well, or maybe in the roof, maybe the geyser's not working properly, all of those can cause a lot of wastage, and there should be ways around that by just fixing it. And even though it does cost a lot of money, it would be safer just to help out. All right, so let's look at the cost of water. We're not looking, this isn't like cost of electricity in grade 9 where you had to do mathematics. This is literally just talking about how South Africa is one of the most incredible places in the world because we give away free water. All right, so South Africa is one of the few countries in the world where the basic right to sufficient water is written in our constitution. And it literally says everyone has the right right to have access to blah 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 sufficient food and water. Okay, so it's in your constitution. Please also note that South Africa has one of the best constitutions in the world, just in case you're wondering. All right, so in July 2006, a policy of providing 6 kiloliters, so that's 6,000 liters of free water per month for a family of 5 was introduced. Now, please note that 6,000 liters of water is nothing. It sounds like a lot, like, wow, I couldn't drink 6,000 liters of water. But remember, this is also for cleaning and for cooking and for a whole, like maybe even textiles. Maybe you use it in your job. Maybe you need to soak things. And a lot of the times we, especially in rural communities, you can't recycle that water. Providing more free water is made difficult, however, by the need to recover the cost of providing this water. It's super difficult to transport water without wasting some of the water. So there are, especially when lockdown happened, I don't know if you remember, all the petrol companies said that they would bring out their petrol trucks and fill those up with water and then move them to all the local rural lands. And please remember, like I was having this fight with someone the other day about the difference between rural and urban. Old school ways, we used to think like rural was anything that was, not built up city like ours. But the definition of rural is actually away from a city center. So even very poor areas in South Africa that don't have proper roads and so on and so forth, if they are close to a city center, they are technically seen as urban, all right? So we're talking about people who really live far away, really in the bushes, far away from a city center. Those are more rural areas, okay? and we try and just provide water to like disadvantaged people. So to discourage water wastage, municipalities charge for water on a sliding scale. So the greater volume of water used, the higher charge for the month. So if you use your free 6,000 kiloliters, well done. You don't get charged. Then every amount as you go up from there, it gets progressively and geometrically higher and higher and higher and higher. So if you really want to like fill your pool, you actually need to um, budget for it because it's expensive. All right, so in rural areas, women still spend 1/3 of their lives fetching water from streams and wells. 1/3. Okay, imagine a third of your week just being spent to going fetching water. Now, please remember that a lot of these people as well, like they don't have access to proper water either, or drums to put the water in. And through my like years at university, I like a couple of people I actually encountered where they rely on their grandkids because they're just too old because their kids are actually at work. So to be able to get water, they need to rely on the grandkids. And you're talking like 70, 80, maybe even 85-year-olds going to go fetch water as well. So, it takes slower for them to do this. So that number might even actually be too low. It might be more than a third. All right, so let's talk about like how we can fix all of this. So the cost of water can also be reduced by installing rainwater tanks, especially in areas where they experience very little rain. Specifically in Grahamstown, I remember the lady that will set your final practical for next year. I think it's next year or this year. I can't remember. She lives in Grahamstown, and they have tons and tons of JoJo tanks to try and collect as much water as humanly possible, so that they actually don't run out because they're at very high risk of not having water on a daily basis. You can also use grey water. So this is water which has been used for bathing and washing. But please remember this is going to affect the water quality, which we'll get to next, because of all the chemicals and bad things that you've actually washed off your body into that water. So majority of the time it is good, but sometimes it's not always good. You can also call grey water the stuff that comes out of your toilet. So after everything's been flushed away, you'll just put your tissue in a separate tank, or you'll add a very specific filter, and then you can use that water to both fertilize as well as water your gardens. And then you can also use a borehole. Alrighty. So South Africa is in danger of having a 17% gap between supply and demand for water by 2030. Now, like a water gap is like areas that, so 17% of South Africa is not going to have like access to proper water, which means that number is a lot higher by now because we're actually getting better at it. And it's quite sad because you can imagine it's very essential and it's in our constitution. So, should we say that our government should try harder? Sure, but they're trying harder already. So just think about certain ways that we can actually try and get water to our rural and disadvantaged people. All right, that's it. Have a fantastic day, Grade 11s, and I'll see you at water quality. Cheers.